Hi everyone, my name is Martin Stein. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Altech Batteries Ltd. We're listed on the Australian Securities Exchange, the ASX. Our ticker is ATC. We have two very exciting battery projects. One is the CERENERGY sodium alumina solid-state battery project that is for grid storage purposes. And the other one is the Silumina Anodes battery materials coating project, which involves taking graphite and silicon and coating it with high purity alumina for use in lithium-ion battery anodes and increasing the capacity of the anodes compared to graphite.
Martin, thank you very much for the introduction. Nice to meet you. You've got these two kind of battery technologies. The main plant is, although the main land area that you've got is in Germany. Your CERENERGY grid storage battery, you've just signed a joint venture with a German outfit called Fraunhofer, and you've just put out a news release on that. So this seems to be the focus and the new kid on the block within the company. Tell me more about it, please.
Sure. So we entered the joint venture with Fraunhofer in September of 2022. So the joint venture is circa 6 months into its life. Now, a little bit of background about Fraunhofer. They are a German government-owned research and development institute. They have approximately 30,000 employees and an annual operating budget of about 2.9 billion euros. So in Germany, they're very well credentialed and respected. So they produced the CERENERGY sodium alumina solid-state battery in their own laboratories over the last 8 years, and they believe that the time is right now to commercialize that, and they've entered into a joint venture with Altech Batteries to do that. And what that encompasses is, in the first instance, commercializing the battery pack for a 100 megawatt hour plant to be built on Altech land in Germany, which is exciting to be able to do that. But the bigger picture for the joint venture is to commercialize the product for gigawatt factories, not only within Germany, but throughout the world.
So they're a kind of a state R&D company. They, or they're a parastatal German technology company, which has got the battery technology. But I see that in your annual report or your financials for the end of the year, you talk about what they were looking for. You mentioned that they were looking for someone with land in Germany, access to funding, a builder of projects, a battery background, and technology in alumina used in ceramics. I mean, is that a retrofitted checklist of actually what they were looking for, or is that actually what you think you've got?
It's a very good question, Merlin. And to give you some more information on that, we should probably talk about how the relationship with Fraunhofer started, because it's not something that's happened overnight. I mentioned it earlier that we have also the Silumina Anodes graphite material for using lithium-ion batteries. So the relationship with Fraunhofer actually started with that project, and it happened a couple of years ago, some time ago. So CERENERGY came to us after having a substantial relationship with Fraunhofer. So Fraunhofer, we entered into a collaboration agreement with them for the Silumina Anodes project some time ago, where they liked the product, they liked the Silumina Anodes technology, and we've entered into the collaboration agreement with them where they're independently testing it and looking at how that product actually works and how it can be improved. So from that, the relationship was built. They got to know us and how we worked, and vice versa. And then the project for the battery evolved from there, where we had the relationship and they thought it was a good fit for us. So to answer your question, is this a retrospective fit? Well, possibly, but this is information that Fraunhofer has communicated to us as to why they went into the joint venture with us. So it's not something that I think we're spruiking without any substance. It is something that Fraunhofer has communicated to us. So there was a lot of synergies. The HPA link is what we're using to coat the Silumina Anodes material with, and that's also what Fraunhofer is using as the solid-state electrolyte within the CERENERGY battery. It's made out of a ceramic high-purity alumina material, and that's really the key to the CERENERGY technology, is that it doesn't use a liquid electrolyte like lithium-ion batteries use. The lithium liquid electrolyte is actually what causes the fires and the overheating in the lithium batteries. So our technology uses the solid state ceramic electrolyte, which allows the battery to charge and discharge, but there's no fire or explosions. So I'm getting sidetracked a little bit here as to how Fraunhofer came about, but hopefully that answers the question as to whether a retrospective fit and how the relationship came along.
Well, no, it does, because your answer tells me that, you had a relationship for years beforehand, and Fraunhofer were looking to advance the CERENERGY battery, and you offered a whole series of attributes that work well for them, and so it perhaps it's kind of crystallized what they were looking for, the land, the entrepreneurial aspect of it.
If I could just also comment on that as well, Merlin, because it is a good point. Fraunhofer actually tried to work with some bigger companies, some well-known international names, which I won't mention, but it didn't work out with them. There wasn't the synergies, and they wanted to go with a smaller, more agile company that can make decisions quickly, and a smaller company was what they were looking for.
Yeah, and I'm assuming, in that, talking about agility, there's also that kind of cultural flexibility that you're solution focused, you're trying to kind of advance things, whereas a bigger company might just be more kind of process driven. And if two big process driven entities have different processes, then it's not going to gel.
That's possibly the case, but what I can say is that working with Fraunhofer, it's definitely two different cultures. There's two different approaches to the joint venture. It's clear to see that from our workshops that the different parties operate differently, but the early signs are that the synergies are working and the different skill sets that both parties are bringing to the project are complementary.
In that list of kind of attributes, the two kind of question marks I have is, one is kind of commercial. Well, we'll come to both of them, but the first one is commercialization of technologies, because on some levels, Altech is still at the R&D stage, and kind of the CERENERGY is also at the R&D stage. So, how did you convince them, or how do you take it from prototype to commercialization? Tell me about that process, because that's a big change, isn't it?
100%. So Fraunhofer had the battery produced to a prototype 10 kilowatt hour battery pack, which they've tested. You can see the final product, it works. And in the laboratory, they had that product up and running. They have a $25 million pilot plant facility located in Hermsdorf where they're able to do this. So you're exactly right. We are now going from that prototype position to a commercial position, and that's part of the process where we're at now, is designing the product specs, designing the plant layout, obtaining contracts with suppliers and key engineers to move this project from a prototype stage to a commercial stage, and that's all key inputs for the bankable feasibility study that we're partway through preparing at the moment. And look, the aim is to have that bankable feasibility study prepared by the end of 2023, where we'll have a much better understanding of the economics and the process involved in constructing the plant to be able to produce its commercial design at a far bigger level, 100 megawatt hour plant level.
And we've got the Silumina Anode to talk about as well, but just in terms of the cost of this process and the capital available on hand, you had $3.9 million Aussie by the end of the last year. You've just raised another $5 million through kind of the listing of the sub in Germany. So kind of more or less $8 million Aussie. Is that plus the two projects which are kind of running in parallel at the study stage? Is that enough to get you through to the end, to the feasibility study?
We think so. We think we're fully funded to be able to complete the bankable feasibility study for the CERENERGY, as well as finalise construction of the pilot plant for the Silumina Anodes product. We think that's fully funded as well. You're right, we did just receive approximately $5 million Australian. That was from the initial sale of 25% of the Silumina Anodes project. So we received the first two installments for the sale of that 25%. So in a simple answer to your question, yes, we think we're fully funded to complete not only the BFS on the CERENERGY, but also the pilot plant for the Silumina Anodes.
I know we're jumping around a bit, but so we'll come back to CERENERGY and kind of the growth plans on that. But let's just now clarify the Silumina Anodes, because this is also going to be on the patch of ground that you've got in Saxony in Germany, and the plan is to produce a kind of a processing train 1 you call it, to get this Silumina Anode, the alumina coated silicon anode up and running. But you've got a pilot plant which, as I understand it, you're going to start construction in Q4.
Yep, that's correct. So just to clarify, when Altech's talking about the Train 1, we're talking about the joint venture with Fraunhofer to commercialise the 100 megawatt hour plant for the CERENERGY battery. So the Train 1 references we're making are all to do with that. And then the Train 2 is for the gigawatt plans for the CERENERGY battery. So you're not far off, but I just thought I'd better clarify that. And then the next point I thought you raised was with regards to the pilot plant for the Silumina Anodes. So that is actually partway through construction. It's aimed to be completed by around about October, November this year, that pilot plant. We've got the site in Germany where it's being constructed. It's a lot of the works are already completed, so that's not that far away. And then when that is completed, around about Q3 this year, that will produce 120 kilograms per day of the Silumina Anodes product. Now, that isn't a commercial quantity, but it's enough to provide to potential end users for testing in their own processes. Right, so for example, the battery manufacturers, the car manufacturers, they won't take the product until they've independently tested it. That takes time from their perspective to put it through their processes. They've got very rigorous testing procedures, but that pilot plant will produce enough so that we can provide it to our potential customers. They will then be able to test it independently. So that's the first stage of that Silumina Anodes project. The next stage is, and this is currently being undertaken as well, is a bankable feasibility study on the full-scale plant. So what we're proposing to do there is to construct a 10,000 tonne per annum plant to be built on Altech's land to produce the Silumina Anodes project. So I guess the timeline is we're building the pilot plant at the moment. We hope to have that completed for the Silumina Anodes product Q3 this year. We will then provide the samples to potential customers. And concurrently with that, we're doing a full-scale bankable feasibility study on the 10,000 per annum plants to produce that as well. So that's where that is.
Yeah. I think you're being harsh on yourself. I think the plan is Q4, not Q3, to finish it.
Thanks for that. Yes, you're correct. It's we're saying internally end of Q3, beginning of Q4. So, yeah, you're right. You are right.
Okay. Give yourself a bit of slack publicly. don't wanna be strung up on an aggressive timeline. No, that's really interesting. So for the Silumina anode, just as a recap, as I understand it, this is a technology which allows the alumina, allows the lithium to not be sterilized on charge, and for the silicon not to crack. So it's a technology which, if it's successful, will enable the battery users to save 30% of the weight. Is that roughly right?
Pretty much it, Merlin. So what the technology does, well, at the moment, if you look at electric vehicle batteries, the anode is graphite. That's it. But graphite only has a fraction of the capacity that silicon does. But the problem with silicon is that it swells and it cracks. And the industry is trying to solve the problem. How do you get silicon into the anode of an electric vehicle lithium-ion battery, achieve that increase in the capacity, but don't have all the problems that comes along with silicon swelling, cracking? Untreated silicon by itself is just not suitable. So our proposed solution to that is to coat silicon and graphite with high purity alumina, very thin nanometer even layer of high purity alumina over the silicon graphite composite material. And then we're finding from our testing that that's able to be used, and it's increasing the capacity by 30% compared to a graphite only anode.
And therefore, to get the same level of capacity, one will be able to reduce the size of the weight of the battery, so that miniaturization can take place. So we can, the trend of reducing weight. I mean, I've read somewhere that the weight of an EV car is between about 10 and 15% higher than the weight of a conventional combustion engine, which has all kinds of knock-on effects on tire pollution, the particulate pollution, the wear on the tarmac. All of these kind of knock-on effects. And of course, if you can reduce weight, particularly in the battery area, which is a big part of the mass of an EV, that will help alleviate those. So
it's going to have cost benefits and it's going to have capacity benefits, and we agree with your logic there, where we think EV makers will reduce the size of the battery, but achieve the same capacity, but obviously be able to produce those cheaper and lighter.
One of the comments that comes up in your reports and presentation is you're in a race to get the patents done on this technology. Can you just talk a little bit more about that, please?
Well, the product has got patents on it, so the race isn't about the patents. We're comfortable with that. The race is around getting it to market as soon as possible.
So to displace other potential competitors.
Correct. You know, there's a few there's companies around the globe that are trying to increase capacity of lithium-ion batteries by putting silicon in via various different methodologies. We haven't seen anyone that's doing what we're doing yet. Our process is patented, but obviously the race is to get that into the market as quickly as possible and be a first mover.
And so with the pilot plant, so with the 120 kilograms per day, as you said, you'll be able to get samples out to your potential end customers. You're then going to have a bankable feasibility study in hand, which presumably is going to. I think the PFS had an NPV of north of $500 million, but the capex was also north of $400 million. Obviously, you'll be
just to clarify that. No, I think you might have your capex number out there. Our preliminary feasibility study, the modeling was done on capex of US $95 million.
Oh, was it? Okay, sorry. Okay.
You're right on the revenues, the NPV side of things. The NPV is $507 million US.
Okay. So, but with a bankable feasibility study, that 90 odd, let's call it $100 million, is relatively achievable, but you would want to clarify your funding source as soon as possible, really, I guess.
That's right. And look, we're looking at different options of funding. We're finding that the German government and also the European Union is supportive of these sorts of technologies, so we might be able to obtain subsidies or grants to assist in this process, as well as other options like green bonds. The Silumina Anodes project has been rated as green by Cicero, which is an independent rating agency based in Oslo in Norway. So it's important that the technology is green. We've met that certification. So, you know, we think there's subsidies, we think there's grants, we think there's the option to tap the green bond market and also the equity market as well. And
yeah, I can see exactly how this would fit the sweet spot of European grant money, which will be good. But am I right in thinking that you could, at the end of this year, have 2 feasibility studies on 2 projects? So you'll have. Remind me when the feasibility study on CERENERGY is likely to be completed. So yeah, you're going to have these 2 bankable feasibility studies, and what's the current thinking internally? Do you think, right, we've got 2 bankable feasibility studies, we've got 1 big patch of ground in Germany, we're going to dual track this, we're going to do 2, we're going to raise enough money for both of these projects, and we're going to run both at the same time. Is that? Tell me about the kind of how you see next year working.
That's not what we're seeing. We would love for that to happen, but we have to look at it realistically. So it's not going to be a case, Merlin, unfortunately, where both projects are funded at the same time. If we get back to the Silumina Anode strategy, which was to have the pilot plant commissioned in Q4 and provide the Silumina Anodes product to potential end users for testing, if we think that through, it's going to take some time before we have the customers on board for that. and therefore you would think that without the customers and the offtake already in place, the financing wouldn't come through for that prior to the offtakes happening. CERENERGY is different. CERENERGY, there's a lot of demand out there for grid storage battery solutions. We're in discussions with many different interested third parties. So that is a huge global market. As the world transitions from a fossil fuel economy to a renewable energy economy, we all know that there has to be the energy generated, but we also have to appreciate that the energy needs to be stored in batteries so that it can be put into the grid at times when the energy isn't being produced. So there is a lot of demand for grid storage batteries. Now, if we think this through and look forward to the bankable feasibility study being finalised in Q4, we think on the back of that, and we think we can get some offtakes agreements in place fairly swiftly. We think that is a project that could be funded very soon, and construction of the 100 megawatt hour plant could happen, well, really as soon as the finance comes to hand. And it's very difficult to say when finance will be achieved, but our early signs are that, subject to the bankable feasibility study being positive, we're optimistic that the money will be raised and the construction of the plant can happen pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you. You've really clarified that for me. So you got this year you've got both feasibilities running in train in parallel. The CERENERGY is going to be the front runner project because the market is already established, and you expect that is going to be the kind of the first one out of the gate, and then with the customer development for the Silumina Anode, that's going to kind of follow behind until you'll have kind of a project development in series rather than in parallel.
Exactly right. Yeah, I think you've nailed it on the head. Right. What I will say is that, the Silumina Anodes project, we still are doing the bankable feasibility study in anticipation of having customers in place. So it's not like we're sitting on our hands waiting for customers. We're still moving forward with the bankable feasibility study in anticipation of that. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you summed it up pretty well.
Good. And then could you just kind of give me an indication of how you see the kind of the news flow just for the rest of this year? We're just at the start of the second quarter. As a board, what do you talk about in terms of scheduling? That what are you going to be feeding the market over the next 9 months?
Sure. So as the bankable feasibility study on the CERENERGY battery progresses, as we finalise design of the plant, we'll be announcing more things in relation to that. And of course, when the bankable feasibility studies finalise, which we anticipate Q4 this year, we'll be announcing that. Following from that, we'll be in financing discussions and we'll be able to update the market on the financing as that comes to hand, and then the construction as that comes to hand. So I guess that's the imminent news flow with the CERENERGY battery project. With the Silumina Anodes project, the news flow will be around the finalisation of the pilot plant, the using that 120 kilograms per day to get to potential end users. So there'll be some news flow around that, and news flow around the bankable feasibility for the full scale plant for that project as well.
Good. And is Johor the kind of the kaolin alumina project, is that non-core now? Are you looking, are you going through a kind of strategic process to dispose of that, or are you just keeping it on the books?
A really good question. So just to let your audience know, we recently changed our name from Altech Chemicals for Altech Batteries. So we think that that is a better name for the projects that we've got and marketing going forward. In relation to the Johor HPA plant, so that's on a care and maintenance basis at the moment. We're still in discussions. We're still in discussions with financing that project, but that now has. Look, if the finance comes through, that would be fantastic, and we're still aiming to achieve that. But realistically, that project is on a care and maintenance basis at the moment.
Yeah, good. Martin, thank you very much. It's been a really useful update for me on the company. I understand the kind of the whole a lot better, and I hope that translates to the viewers as well. Good luck with the year ahead.
Merlin, thank you very much for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.